Every morning, I'd open SAP and read the same repetitive tasks. Material master updates, purchase order changes, journal entries, all manual, all error-prone. Then I discovered how Claude AI could understand SAP's logic and automate what used to take hours. This isn't theory, this is exactly how I transformed my SAP workflow. What if SAP's tedious tasks weren't a given, but a solvable error? That daily grind, manually entering identical data fields across dozens of records, is a silent tax on productivity. The key insight is this: repetition isn't efficient work, it is an error-prone process vulnerable to human inconsistency. What this means is you are spending valuable time not on decision-making, but on pure data entry, a clear sign this task was always meant to be automated. Ever wonder if those 3 hours could be different? You are executing the same sequence, not because it is complex, but because the system demands it. This pattern clearly indicates a gap between the work and the effort. Here's what's really happening: your expertise is buried under procedural keystrokes, turning strategic time into transactional overhead. You know every validation rule by heart. The problem isn't your knowledge, it is the endless cycle of manual input. This daily grind forces you to trade your analytical skills for data entry, leaving no room for error. That mental fatigue is the real cost. Your expertise deserves a better tool than repetitive keystrokes. We have all been there, staring at that familiar screen, running the same exact steps again. You feel the clock ticking away on strategic work while your hands handle this predictable, mechanical process. This is the bottleneck that quietly consumes your days. Your critical thinking gets sidelined by these mundane, yet essential, routines. It's a massive drain on your most valuable resource, your focus. The real frustration isn't the time lost. It is that your expertise is trapped in this cycle. You are essentially a human API connecting systems. This isn't process work, it is a profound misuse of judgment. Your brain, built for solving complex problems, is relegated to copying and pasting. That's the true cost, and it is unsustainable. Forget everything you have tried. SAP automation is hiding in plain sight. Here's the magic of it. You give Claude just one transaction code. It reconstructs the entire logical journey, every screen, every required field, every dependency chain as if it were an SAP blueprint. This isn't just screen scraping. It is understanding the intent behind each step, the why behind the workflow. That foundational logic is what makes true automation possible. This is the breakthrough. You are not just feeding it raw data, you are embedding SAP's own decision framework. Once Claude internalizes why an error triggers, its automation stops mimicking clicks and starts making intelligent choices. It anticipates the system, navigating complex validations instinctively. That's the transformative leap from a simple script to a true digital counterpart. This intelligence is your strategic advantage. The system's logic becomes Claude's operating manual. Instead of just searching for a transaction, Claude deduces the correct transaction from the business context you provide. It closes the gap between what needs to happen and the precise SAP path to make it happen with native fluency. Let's be clear, a static list of codes is useless. The breakthrough is Claude building that decision logic for you internally. It connects your everyday business goal directly to the exact SAP action required. What this means is you stop memorizing paths. You just state the intent, and Claude navigates the entire system correctly. The key insight is Claude does not just know these terms, it understands their relationship. This is the core SAP logic. What this means is Claude can reason that a specific material type requires a precise account assignment, triggering the correct posting key. The pattern clearly indicates it is simulating the system's internal decision tree before a single click. Stop the SAP insanity. Claude AI cuts hours of manual work to seconds. Do not simply jot down codes. You are documenting decision points and system logic. This meticulous record is your blueprint, transforming vague clicks into a structured sequence Claude can actually execute. Get this foundation perfect, because the quality of your automation depends entirely on its clarity. The key insight is that you are not just listing data fields, you are reverse engineering the system's own logic. You must understand why each validation rule exists, what the system is guarding against. This reveals the hidden decision tree Claude will navigate. Miss this layer, and your automation will fail at the first error message. Precision here builds unshakable confidence. Now, think of errors as your cheat sheet. When the system says no, it is telling you its most important rules. Documenting how you fix those errors isn't just a record, it is giving Claude the exact logic it needs to self-correct. You are building its troubleshooting muscle so the automation can adapt on the fly, not just follow a brittle script. The pattern is obvious. Every repetitive task begins with you pulling data from somewhere. Documenting exactly where this information lives and how it is structured is the first step toward turning that manual fetch into a seamless, automated input. This isn't just preparation, it is building the foundation for a truly self-sufficient system. But how do you know the automation even worked? That's where success criteria become your non-negotiable benchmark. It is not enough for the task to just run, you need a clear, measurable definition of the correct outcome. This turns a vague hope into a concrete pass-fail test, giving you absolute confidence in the system you are building. Stop letting SAP steal your time. Claude AI changes everything. Now, you need the exact prompt architecture. The key insight is framing each task with precise context, expected SAP behavior, and the exact output format. What this means is Claude does not just guess, it executes with surgical precision, transforming vague requests into flawless, automated instructions for your system. So, what's the critical context Claude absolutely needs? Think version, transaction codes, and your specific data structures. Without this, you are building on quicksand. The pattern clearly indicates that providing this foundation is what separates a generic command from a perfect, executable script tailored precisely to your SAP instance. Now, let's make that script operational. You must give Claude the exact field names you see in SAP and the precise transaction codes for navigation. This specificity transforms a vague idea into a concrete set of instructions the AI can build upon and execute flawlessly, eliminating manual guesswork. A major pitfall is a rigid prompt that can't adapt. The key insight is you must define conditional logic. For instance, if an invoice is blocked, have Claude execute a specific release transaction. Build these decision rules upfront. This is how you create resilient automation that handles exceptions intelligently, not one that crashes at the first irregularity. But what happens when that rule fails? The system breaks. This is where validation changes everything. You are not just telling Claude what to do, you are embedding guardrails. Check if the vendor master is active. If not, flag it for review. This transforms your automation from a fragile script into a reliable partner that catches errors before they become problems. Forget everything you think you know about SAP automation. So far Claude understood you perfectly. But words are useless unless they do something. This bridge is the critical leap. We take Claude's precise instruction, its perfect output, and we transform it. We convert that clear language into the exact, executable script that SAP will obey without a single human keystroke. That's the final, powerful translation. The key insight is that we bypass the interface entirely. We translate Claude's perfect logic directly into the machine language SAP understands. This script becomes your silent digital employee. It executes the sequence with flawless precision, 24/7. The transformation from idea to action is now complete and autonomous. So, how does Claude actually move data? Think of Excel not as a file, but as your universal remote control. You simply place your commands and data into its cells. Claude then translates that entire spreadsheet into a perfect, actionable script for SAP. What this means is you have built a direct pipeline from your desk to the production server. Now, this isn't just about sending commands. The true power is resilience. The system is now equipped to confirm every action in SAP and create an automatic log. The key insight is this automation is now self-auditing and self-documenting, building a complete, reliable history you can trust for every single transaction. But it does not stop there. The genius is in the learning. We use this documented history as a feedback loop, allowing the system to analyze past outcomes and automatically refine its instructions for next time. What this means is the system gets smarter with every single run. Your automation is no longer static, it continuously improves its own performance. Claude AI is quietly replacing traditional SAP automation tools. That's a massive workload, but here's the reality. Claude does not just process data, it understands your SAP structure. It interprets field relationships, validates entries against your configuration, and flags inconsistencies before they hit the system. This means you move from manual data entry to strategic oversight, eliminating errors that would normally take days to untangle. Now, imagine navigating these transactions without touching a single key. Claude executes the entire navigation sequence within the SAP GUI, entering transaction codes, moving through screens, and population tabs, mimicking a human user but with flawless, tireless precision. Your role shifts from operator to commander, simply reviewing and approving the completed work. Think about the difference between building a house brick by brick versus giving the blueprint to a master builder. Claude handles the material-specific rules, the brick, the steel, the glass, with its own logic. The pattern clearly indicates it's adapting its workflow on the fly, ensuring each type gets precisely what it needs, automatically. Now, consider the immense hidden cost of even one small error here. The key insight is that Claude is internally generating this validation check. It is not just retrieving rules, but reasoning about them. What this means is you get a safety net that actively learns from the structure of your own SAP data, preventing costly downstream corrections before they happen. Let's drill into the final result. This isn't just a passive record. It's an actionable intelligence summary. The pattern clearly indicates what succeeded, what was fixed automatically, and the exact logic behind each decision. Here's what's really happening. You are building a verifiable, self-documenting audit trail with zero extra work. Forget SAP training, the real fix breaks all the rules. Now, imagine this, you trigger one action, and Claude seamlessly handles a complete business process behind the scenes. It logs in, navigates menus, executes multiple transactions in sequence, and validates the data between each step. What this means is you are not just automating a click, you are engineering a digital assembly line for your most complex SAP workflows. But what happens when SAP throws you a curveball? A warning, an error, a missing master data entry? The key insight is that Claude does not just give up. It can read the system's response and, based on predefined rules, make a decision. Should it proceed, retry, or take a different path entirely? This conditional intelligence is what makes the automation truly robust. Now imagine that decision needing a human touch. Instead of stalling, Claude crafts a detailed email with the exact context and blocker. It sends this to your team, waits for a clear reply, then interprets the human instruction and resumes the workflow seamlessly. This creates a powerful hybrid loop between automation and human judgment. Think of an audit trail not as just a log, but as an unbroken, self-narrating story. The key insight is that Claude meticulously chronicles every decision, every human input, and every automated step. What this means is you are not just compliant, you possess a crystal clear, defensible narrative of the entire workflow, automatically authored as it happens. This narrative audit trail shifts your role entirely. You are no longer just building workflows, you are constructing self-documenting business processes. The pattern clearly indicates that automation isn't a tool you use, it's a system you govern, with full accountability for every step from trigger to final approval. Your SAP login shouldn't be a daily punishment. SAP throws a curveball when screens change, your automation suddenly can't find buttons or fields. This failure isn't random. It's a system mismatch where Claude looks for rigid visual anchors that get disrupted. The solution isn't just retraining, it is building robust selectors that adapt to layout shifts, ensuring your bot works reliably every single time. When a pop-up window appears or a system message interrupts, Claude's execution can freeze because it's no longer on the expected screen. You must explicitly train it to identify and acknowledge these interruptions as part of the workflow. Build logic to wait for and then close these prompts before proceeding, ensuring your automation never gets stuck. This is the silent killer of automations. Your script runs perfectly, but after an idle period, the system logs you out or refreshes. The key insight is you must programmatically check for this state at every critical step. Instruct Claude to look for the login screen's telltale signs, and then trigger a full reauthentication sequence. Next, data validation failures. When your bot encounters unexpected data, it shouldn't just stop. Instead, teach Claude to recognize failure patterns, like format mismatches. The pattern clearly indicates you need built-in recovery logic. Here's what's really happening: your automation should log the error, attempt a standardized fix, or safely proceed to the next record without manual rescue. Think of this like an orchestra where every musician must be perfectly in tune. A script written for your development system will screech in production if the versions clash. What this means is you must treat versioning as the foundational score for your automation, rigorously validating it before any performance begins. Claude AI can understand and automate complex SAP logic when properly guided. Start with one repetitive task, document it thoroughly, then expand. The real value isn't just time saved, but error reduction and process consistency. Try automating your most repetitive SAP task this week and share your experience.